Yo, check this out. Look at her. What are you even carrying all that for, huh? You think anybody cares? Dude. Nah, seriously. You hiding behind those books? Scared little turtle? Man, this is hilarious.
Get it on video.
Yeah, go ahead, hide. Doesn't change anything.
She thought it was just another day at her new school, just another hallway, just another crowd of strangers. But when Marcus pointed his finger at her and laughed, loud enough for everyone to hear, Maya didn't know that this moment would change everything. She didn't know that the phone recording this humiliation would reach millions. And Marcus? He had no idea who he was messing with. No idea that the quiet girl with the curly hair standing alone in that hallway had a father who would move heaven and earth to protect her. What happened next would shake that entire school to its core and force a community to confront an ugly truth they'd been ignoring for far too long.
Maya Torres was 16 when she walked through the doors of Ridgemont High for the first time. She'd moved schools 3 times in 4 years, not because of her grades, which were exceptional, or because of behavioral problems, which she'd never had. She moved because her father's work demanded it. And when your father is one of the biggest action stars in Hollywood, settling down isn't really part of the vocabulary. But this time felt different. This time, Vin Diesel promised her it would be different. "You're gonna love it here," he told her over breakfast that first morning, his massive hand resting gently on her shoulder. "And if anyone gives you trouble, anyone, you tell me." Maya had smiled and nodded, but inside she felt the familiar knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. She'd heard promises like this before. Ridgemont High sat in an affluent suburb, the kind of place where the parking lot looked like a luxury car dealership and every third student wore designer clothes like uniforms. Maya's father had chosen this neighborhood specifically because it was supposed to be good. Good schools, good families, good opportunities. What he didn't realize, what Maya had learned from experience, was that good neighborhoods didn't always mean good people. She remembered the day Vin adopted her. She'd been 9 years old, living in her 4th foster home, convinced that she was destined to age out of the system like so many kids she'd known. Then this giant of a man walked into the social worker's office, sat down across from her and said, "I'd like to be your dad, if that's okay with you." She stared at him in disbelief. People like him didn't adopt girls like her. Black girls with kinky hair and dark skin, girls the system had labeled difficult to place. But Vin Diesel wasn't like most people. He saw her, really saw her. And from that moment on, he became the father she'd only dreamed about, protective, loving, present. He taught her about strength, not just physical, but internal. "The world's going to test you," he'd told her once. "People are going to judge you for things you can't control, your skin, your hair, your history. But that doesn't define you. Your character defines you. How you respond defines you." Maya carried those words with her as she navigated the crowded hallways of Ridgemont High that first week. She noticed the stares immediately, the way conversations would pause when she walked by, the way groups would part slightly, creating invisible boundaries she wasn't invited to cross. It wasn't overt. Nobody said anything directly, but she felt it in the lingering glances, the whispered comments just out of earshot, the way certain students would claim seats were saved when she tried to sit down in the cafeteria. She'd made one friend so far, a girl named Alicia, another black student who'd attended Ridgemont since freshman year. "You get used to it," Alicia had told her quietly during lunch. "It's not like they're wearing hoods or anything. It's subtler here. They'll smile to your face, but you're never really in, you know?" Maya knew. She'd felt this before at other schools, though it manifested differently depending on the place. Sometimes it was isolation, sometimes it was microaggressions disguised as jokes, sometimes it was outright hostility. Ridgemont seemed to lean toward the first two, creating an atmosphere of polite exclusion that was almost harder to combat because it gave her nothing concrete to point to, nothing she could bring to a teacher or administrator without sounding paranoid or oversensitive. But she tried to stay optimistic. She focused on her classes, her art, her music.
She kept her head down and told herself that eventually people would see her for who she was, not what they assumed about her. She texted her father every day after school. Today was good. Made it through pre-calc without crying. That's a win. Vin would respond with encouragement, pride, terrible dad jokes. He believed in her ability to navigate these spaces, to rise above the ignorance. And Maya didn't want to disappoint him by admitting how hard it really was, how exhausting it felt to constantly prove her humanity, her worth, her right to simply exist in spaces that seemed to reject her by default. Then came the day everything changed. The day Marcus decided Maya would be his entertainment.
It started on a Wednesday morning, 3 weeks into the school year. Maya was at her locker between classes, organizing her books, when she felt someone standing behind her, too close, deliberately close. She turned around to find Marcus Holbrook staring down at her with a smirk that made her skin crawl. Marcus was everything Ridgemont valued: white, wealthy, athletic, conventionally attractive. He was the starting quarterback, the son of a prominent local businessman, the kind of kid teachers gave second and third chances to because he's got such potential. He was also, as Maya would soon discover, the kind of kid who'd been told his entire life that the world existed for his amusement. "You're new," he said, not as a question, but as an observation, like he was identifying a specimen. "Yeah," Maya replied carefully, turning back to her locker. "Just started a few weeks ago." "Where'd you transfer from? Inner city?" The way he said inner city made it clear what he really meant. Maya felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her voice neutral. "No, I've lived in a few different places. My dad's work requires moving around." "Your dad work construction or something?" Maya closed her locker and faced him directly. "Look, I've got to get to class." "Film?" Marcus laughed, a sound designed to be heard by the growing audience of students in the hallway. "What, like he holds the boom mic?" Several students snickered. Maya felt heat rising in her chest, the familiar burn of humiliation mixing with anger. "He's an actor," she said quietly. "Sure he is," Marcus said, his voice dripping with condescension. "Let me guess, Tyler Perry movie Extra?" The laughter grew louder. Maya noticed phones coming out, angling toward them. In 2025, every confrontation was potential content, every moment of someone else's pain a chance for viral fame. She'd seen it before at other schools, the way cruelty became entertainment, the way witnesses became accomplices through their cameras and their silence. "I really need to go," Maya said, trying to move past him. Marcus sidestepped, blocking her path. "Hold up, I'm just trying to be friendly. Welcome you to Ridgemont. We don't get many urban students here." Another calculated pause, another layer of meaning designed to cut without technically using a slur. "Let me pass," Maya said, her voice firmer now. "Or what?" Marcus grinned, spreading his arms in mock confusion. "What are you going to do? I'm just talking. We're just having a conversation, right, guys?" He looked around at the crowd, inviting them into his performance. Several students nodded, smiling. Others looked uncomfortable but said nothing, their silence a form of participation. This was the dance Maya knew too well, the one where the aggressor pushed and prodded, creating a situation where any response she gave would be used against her. If she walked away, she'd be weak. If she pushed back verbally, she'd be angry, aggressive, fulfilling their stereotypes. If she pushed back physically, she'd be violent, proving their assumptions. She was trapped in a maze where every exit led to another cage. "Marcus, come on, man, leave her alone." The voice came from somewhere in the crowd, a Latino student named Carlos that Maya recognized from her English class. For a moment, she felt a flash of hope. Marcus turned toward Carlos with theatrical surprise. "Leave her alone, bro? I'm literally just trying to welcome the new student. Why are you being weird about it?" The deflection was masterful, turning the accusation back on the one person willing to intervene. Carlos hesitated, and Maya watched as the moment of potential allyship crumbled. He looked away, and Marcus's smile widened with victory. "See?" Marcus said, turning back to Maya. "Nobody has a problem here, except maybe you. Why are you so sensitive? Is that a cultural thing, or—" Maya's hands trembled as she clutched her books.
She wanted to scream at him, to tell him exactly what he was doing and why it was wrong. But she'd learned that logical arguments didn't work against people determined to misunderstand you. Instead, she tried one more time to simply leave, attempting to walk around him. Marcus moved again, blocking her path while holding his hands up innocently. "Whoa, why are you trying to push past me? That's kind of aggressive, don't you think?" He looked directly at a phone recording them. "Everyone saw that, right? She's trying to get physical." The gaslighting was textbook. Create a hostile situation, then act like the victim when the target responds. Maya felt tears of frustration burning behind her eyes, and she hated herself for it. She didn't want to cry. Crying would be surrendering something to him, some piece of her dignity she couldn't afford to lose. "What's going on here?" Mrs. Patterson pushed through the crowd. Maya felt a momentary relief. An adult, someone with authority. "Nothing, Mrs. P," Marcus said smoothly, his entire demeanor shifting to respectful student mode. "Just introducing myself to the new girl. She seems a little upset, though. Maybe she's having a bad day." Mrs. Patterson looked between them, her expression suggesting she'd already decided who to believe. "Maya, is everything all right?" Maya stared at her, understanding in that instant that no matter what she said, the teacher had already chosen Marcus's version of reality. She could see it in the way Mrs. Patterson's body language angled slightly away from her, in the subtle warmth in her voice when she addressed Marcus versus the mild impatience when speaking to Maya. "Everything's fine," Maya said flatly. "Good, then everyone get to class, the bell's about to ring." Mrs. Patterson walked away without another word, without asking any follow-up questions, without noticing or caring about the phones still recording, the faces still watching, the power dynamic still firmly in Marcus's favor. Marcus leaned in close as she finally moved past him, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "Welcome to Ridgemont, urban girl. You're gonna love it here." Then louder for everyone to hear. "See you around, Maya. Maybe you can tell us more about your dad, the famous actor, sometime. I'd love to hear those stories." The laughter followed her down the hallway and into her classroom, where she sat in the back row, staring at her desk, trying to breathe through the tightness in her chest. Her phone buzzed. Text messages were already appearing from numbers she didn't recognize. "Did you see that new girl try to start something with Marcus? Why is she so aggressive? He was literally just being nice." Someone said she claimed her dad is famous, LMAO. Okay, sure. Maya turned off her phone. She didn't eat lunch that day. She didn't make eye contact with anyone. When school finally ended, she walked to her car, a modest Honda her father had bought her specifically so she wouldn't draw attention, and sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes trying to compose herself before driving home. She didn't tell her father what happened. Not yet. She told herself it was a one-time thing, that Marcus would get bored and move on. She told herself she could handle it. She was wrong. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus made her his project. It wasn't constant, that would have been too obvious. Instead, it came in waves designed to keep her off balance. A comment in the cafeteria about how she probably qualified for free lunch. A question in chemistry about whether she understood the assignment or needed it explained more slowly. The time he accidentally bumped into her in the hallway hard enough to knock her books everywhere, then apologized profusely while his friends laughed in the background. Each incident was small enough to be dismissed. Isolated, they seemed like nothing. Misunderstandings, accidents, harmless teenage banter. But together, they formed a pattern of targeted harassment that was slowly crushing Maya's spirit. She stopped raising her hand in class. She stopped eating in the cafeteria. She started taking longer routes through the building to avoid crossing paths with Marcus and his friends. Alicia noticed. "You need to report this," she said urgently during one of their hushed conversations in the library. "Tell your dad. Tell the principal. This isn't okay." "Tell them what?" Maya asked bitterly. "That a boy talked to me in the hallway? That he asked me questions? That he bumped into me once? They'll say I'm overreacting. They'll say I'm playing the race card. You know how this works." Alicia's silence confirmed what they both knew. The system wasn't designed to protect girls who looked like them from boys who looked like Marcus. Then came the day that would change everything, the day Marcus decided subtle wasn't entertaining enough anymore.
It happened in the main hallway during lunch period, when foot traffic was at its peak and maximum witnesses were guaranteed. Maya was walking from the library to her next class, trying to blend into the crowd, when she heard Marcus's voice boom across the corridor.
Yo, Maya! Maya Torres! She froze. Every instinct told her to keep walking, to pretend she hadn't heard. But the hallway was going quiet, students stopping to watch, creating that terrible arena atmosphere where you knew something bad was about to happen and there was no escape. She turned slowly. Marcus stood in the center of the hallway, phone in hand, surrounded by his usual crew of enablers. But this time was different. This time, he looked like someone who'd been planning something, whose cruelty had graduated from improvisation to performance art. "I've been doing some research," Marcus announced loudly, addressing not just Maya, but everyone in earshot, "about your famous actor dad. You know what I found?" He started walking toward her, phone extended like a weapon. "Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No actor named Torres in any credits. No famous black actor with a daughter named Maya. Funny, right?" Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. The crowd was growing, forming a tight circle around them. She saw phones everywhere, dozens of them, all pointing at her. This was it, the moment Marcus had been building toward, the public humiliation designed to go viral, to cement her place at the bottom of Ridgemont's social hierarchy. "So I'm wondering," Marcus continued, his voice thick with mock confusion, "why would someone lie about something like that? Why would you come to our school and make up these crazy stories? Is it because you want attention? Is it because you think it makes you special?" He was right in front of her now, close enough that she could see the calculated malice in his eyes. "Or is it just what people like you do? Lie and make up excuses for why you don't belong in places like this? People like you." There it was, the mask fully off. The thing he'd been dancing around for weeks now, stated clearly enough that everyone understood, vague enough that he could claim plausible deniability later. "I'm not lying," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. She hated how small she sounded, how defeated. "You're not lying?" Marcus laughed, spinning around to address their audience. "Okay, prove it. Call him right now. Call your famous dad. Put him on speaker. Let's all meet this mysterious movie star father of yours." The crowd murmured with anticipation. This was prime content. This was the kind of thing that would get shared and reshared, that would define someone's entire high school existence. Maya felt dizzy, like the walls were closing in. Her vision tunneled, focusing only on Marcus's triumphant face and the phone screens all around her, recording her destruction for posterity. "That's what I thought," Marcus said when she didn't move. "You know what you are? You're a liar and a fraud. You probably don't even know who your real father is. Probably some—" "Marcus, stop." The voice cut through the noise, sharp and authoritative. Everyone turned. It was Principal Davidson, pushing through the crowd with Mrs. Patterson and the school security officer behind him. "My office, now." Marcus's expression shifted instantly to innocent confusion. "Principal Davidson, I was just—" "Now," Davidson repeated, his voice leaving no room for argument. He turned to Maya, and his expression softened slightly. "You too, Maya. Come with me." The crowd began to disperse, disappointed that the show was ending before the climax. Maya followed the principal on shaking legs, feeling both relieved and terrified. In the office, sitting across from Davidson's desk with Marcus slouching in the chair next to her, she finally understood the full horror of her situation. Because Principal Davidson wasn't looking at Marcus with disappointment or anger. He was looking at him with the kind of paternal concern reserved for good kids who'd made mistakes. And when he looked at Maya, she saw something different. Skepticism mixed with fatigue, like she was the problem he had to manage, not the victim he needed to protect. "Marcus, I'm surprised at you. This isn't like you. What's going on?" "I'm sorry, sir," Marcus said, his voice perfectly calibrated for repentance. "I was just frustrated because Maya's been telling everyone her dad is famous, and when I asked her about it, she got really defensive. I shouldn't have confronted her like that in public. I let my emotions get the better of me." Maya stared at him in disbelief. The manipulation was breathtaking. He'd somehow turned weeks of targeted harassment into a moment of teenage frustration, turned himself into the reasonable one, turned her into the problematic student whose lies had provoked him. "Maya,
Is your dad an actor? She met his eyes, seeing that he had already decided her answer before she gave it. Yes. What's his name? This was it, the moment where she had to decide whether to reveal the truth and risk making things even worse.
His name is Vin Diesel, Maya said quietly. The silence in the office was deafening. Then Marcus laughed, actually laughed out loud, a sound of pure, delighted mockery. Even Principal Davidson's expression shifted to something between pity and exasperation. Maya, he said slowly, like speaking to a small child, Vin Diesel doesn't have a black daughter. I think we need to talk about why you feel the need to make up these stories. The office door opened. Principal Davidson's secretary stood in the doorway, her face pale, holding her phone with a shaking hand. Sir, there's someone here to see you. He says it's about Maya. It's... She couldn't seem to finish the sentence. Behind her, filling the doorway with his massive presence, stood Vin Diesel. He wasn't in costume or character. He was dressed casually in jeans and a black t-shirt, but there was nothing casual about the energy radiating from him. His jaw was set, his eyes hard, and when he looked at his daughter sitting small and defeated in that chair, something in his expression made even Principal Davidson lean back. Maya, Vin said gently, ignoring everyone else in the room. You okay, baby? She burst into tears, weeks of held-back emotion flooding out at all once. Vin crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled her into his arms, letting her sob into his chest while he murmured reassurances only she could hear. Marcus had gone completely white, his earlier bravado evaporating as he realized the magnitude of his mistake. Mr. Diesel, Principal Davidson stammered, standing up awkwardly. I had no idea that Maya was... we weren't aware... Vin held up one hand, silencing the principal without a word. He was still holding Maya with his other arm. My daughter has been
His name is Vin Diesel, Maya said quietly. The silence in the office was deafening. Then Marcus laughed, actually laughed out loud, a sound of pure, delighted mockery. Even Principal Davidson's expression shifted to something between pity and exasperation. Maya, he said slowly, like speaking to a small child, Vin Diesel doesn't have a black daughter. I think we need to talk about why you feel the need to make up these stories. The office door opened. Principal Davidson's secretary stood in the doorway, her face pale, holding her phone with a shaking hand. Sir, there's someone here to see you. He says it's about Maya. She couldn't seem to finish the sentence. Behind her, filling the doorway with his massive presence, stood Vin Diesel. He wasn't in costume or character. He was dressed casually in jeans and a black t-shirt, but there was nothing casual about the energy radiating from him. His jaw was set, his eyes hard, and when he looked at his daughter, sitting small and defeated in that chair, something in his expression made even Principal Davidson instinctively lean back. Maya, Vin said gently, ignoring everyone else in the room. You okay, baby? She burst into tears, weeks of held-back emotion flooding out all at once. Vin crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled her into his arms, letting her sob into his chest while he murmured reassurances only she could hear. Marcus had gone completely white, his earlier bravado evaporating as he realized the magnitude of his mistake. Mr. Diesel, Principal Davidson stammered, standing up awkwardly, I had no idea that Maya was... we weren't aware that... Vin held up one hand, silencing the principal without a word. He was still holding Maya with his other arm. My daughter has been attending the school for 5 weeks. In that time, she's been harassed, mocked, isolated, and today, publicly humiliated. And from what I understand, multiple adults witnessed some of these incidents and did nothing. His eyes moved to Mrs. Patterson, who'd followed them into the office. Absolutely nothing. Sir, teenagers have conflicts. We can't monitor every interaction. This wasn't a conflict. This was targeted racial harassment. And instead of protecting my daughter, instead of investigating her complaints, you blamed her for the situation. You questioned her credibility. You made her prove her worth before you'd consider that she might be telling the truth. The principal opened his mouth, then closed it. There was no good response because every word Vin spoke was undeniably true. Vin turned to Marcus, who looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. You spent weeks making my daughter's life hell because you saw her as less than, as someone who didn't belong, who didn't deserve respect, who didn't deserve to take up space in your school. You want to know why? Look in the mirror. The ugliest thing about you isn't anything you said to Maya, it's what you revealed about yourself. Marcus said nothing. What could he say? Here's what's going to happen, Vin continued, addressing the principal again. You're going to conduct a full investigation into the harassment Maya experienced. You're going to review the videos students recorded. Yes, I know about those. They've already been sent to me. You're going to implement actual anti-racism training for this entire school, not some token assembly, but real, substantive education. And you're going to create reporting mechanisms that protect victims instead of punishing them for speaking up. Mr. Diesel, I assure you, we take these matters seriously. You didn't take it seriously when it was just Maya Torres, anonymous black girl. You're taking it seriously now because I'm here, because I have money and fame and lawyers. Think about what that means. Think about all the kids who don't have someone like me to fight for them, who get dismissed and gaslighted and told they're overreacting. What happens to them? The question hung in the air, unanswerable and damning. Maya pulled back from her father's embrace, wiping her eyes. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel small. She felt seen, validated, believed. And when she looked at Marcus, she didn't see someone powerful anymore. She saw someone exposed, someone whose cruelty had finally caught up with him. "Can we go home, Dad?" Maya asked quietly. "Yeah, baby, we can go home." As they walked out of that office together, Maya realized something important. Her father couldn't shield her from every racist encounter she'd face in life. His fame couldn't protect her from a world that would judge her for her skin before it knew her character. But it could force people to see what they'd been trying to ignore. It could create accountability where there had been none. It could be a megaphone for a truth too many people found convenient to dismiss. 2 days later, several videos of Marcus's harassment went viral. Not because they were shared as entertainment, but because Vin posted them himself with a message, "This is what racism looks like in 2025. Not hoods and slurs, but subtle harassment, gaslighting, and institutional indifference. We can't fight what we pretend doesn't exist." The story made national news. Ridgemont High faced intense scrutiny. Marcus was expelled after the investigation revealed a pattern of discriminatory behavior toward multiple students of color. 3 teachers, including Mrs. Patterson, were suspended for failing to report harassment they had witnessed. The school board implemented new policies. But more important than any of that, Maya went back to school. Because running wasn't the answer. Hiding wasn't the answer. The answer was standing in her truth, speaking her experience, and refusing to be erased. "How would you react if you witnessed this happening?" had Vin asked in his viral post. That question matters. Because indifference is complicity. Silence is participation. And change only happens when enough people decide that protecting the vulnerable matters more than maintaining comfort. Maya's story isn't unique. It's repeated in schools across this country every single day. The only difference is, most of those stories don't end Hollywood endings. They end in transferred students, damaged spirits, and potential destroyed by unchecked cruelty. If this story made you feel something, don't let that feeling fade. Share it, discuss it, and most importantly, when you see injustice happening in real life, remember, you have a choice. You can be the person who records for entertainment, the person who walks away, or the person who stands up. Which one will you be?